this meeting of the Sheffield Board of Selectmen to order for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. The first item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes. We do not have any tonight, so we will move right on to item number 2, which is the appointment for fire department inspections. Rhonda?
So for the last several years, we haven't had anybody to do our fire department inspections in town. And so Great Barrington has been covering that for us. We now have a firefighter who's interested and would like to begin on April 1st to handle those inspections for us. So we'll be bringing it back into town. And that would be Ed Harvey.
Excellent.
I would entertain a motion that we appoint Ed Harvey as the fire smoke detector inspector, or whatever we call it. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
We want to thank Great Barrington for handling it for the last several years.
Yeah, do you want us to send a letter?
We do.
So I'll make a motion. We send a letter of thanks to Great Barrington for their generosity.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The third item on the agenda is discussion and possible action regarding a one-day alcohol permit for after-hours hospitality, which is up on Intermountain Road. I believe it's the old Option Institute. One-day alcohol license for the Lunar New Year dinner party, March 1st from 5 to 8 p.m.
I'll make a motion that we accept after hours hospitality's application for a one-day alcohol permit, finding that we have all the information.
They do.
Accept and approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good, thank you. Okay, we have discussion and possible action regarding District Local Technical Assistance, otherwise known as the DLTA grant.
Want me to give you the information on this?
Oh, would you like to speak to this?
I'd be happy
Please,
to.
please
This
do.
is the DLTA. I don't know if you remember at our retreat, we talked about the possibility of looking into updating our master plan and looking at an open space and recreation plan as well. This grant would provide us with some of the initial funding for doing that. It would require a $5,000 match from town, but it's a nice way of getting ourselves started on this. We don't need to spend it within this fiscal or within this year, so probably it would get us started for a program that probably wouldn't begin until next December or January, is my
And
guess.
how much is the grant I'll put in for?
Do you remember the amount? That'd be great.
Renee Wood, 928 Boardman Street. From what I understand, the reason it won't be this fiscal year is because they're going to need to get some more grant money to go along with this. It's going to turn out to be about a $60,000 project. So they will have to get at least 2 other grants, one of which may be a community compact best practices grant, as well as a state planning grant. So
So this DLTA is for an unknown amount at this point?
they never assign an amount
An actual
to a
amount.
DLTA. They assign the work,
Okay,
and it will carry over until,
until it's done.
yes.
Thank you, Renee. So I'll take a motion to approve the request for a DLTA grant.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, item number 5 is the update on Massachusetts Broadband Institute, MBI, digital equity, and Renee is here to speak to us about that. And she did give us documentation for our file, if you had a chance to review it.
So there's 2 things going on. First of all, and this came in since I sent the information to Jill, our town proportionally was such a high response to the bead challenge that it basically has put our whole town into review. There were so many differences that came up in terms of speed, versus actual and various coverage options, that we are now one of the few towns in the entire state that is under review, which is a positive thing, okay? So I want to thank everyone who put up with the big challenge and all of that. The second thing is that we're now in a position, we have about $57,000 assigned by the state and the feds to Sheffield for implementation. And again, the three key things in the digital equity is one, access to broadband that has the right amount of speed. The other one is access to equipment so that you can use that speed. And the third one is training, so you can use the equipment that you have to access the speed. There's not too much that we in town are going to be able to do on the whole speed aspect. I think that will come out of us now being considered a gap town, as well as there's some legislation in the state to address that. But the two things that we do want to address is the need for equipment, and a lot of this is income-based, as well as the need for training. Most of us, including, I know I sure could use some training on certain things, whether it's an iPad or your laptop or your cell phone. So what we have put together, and I think you have a copy of this, are two basic things. One, it's a really long, just do it yourself. And that's the multi-page document. And every one of these is a hyperlink, so that if you want to try to get a computer by taking some courses, just look on here. It's all nicely organized for you. Click on that button and do it yourself. Just get it done, okay? On this, what I am suggesting, and I want to thank Dina for doing work on this with me, we'd like to have a web link on the town's website, on the senior center website, that goes to the library's website, where all of this is, rather than putting it on 3 different websites, okay? So this is the first thing. You can just start on this as soon as it is up, okay? The second thing we're doing is we really want to find out, we do not want to make assumption as to what people need for equipment and what people need for training. So I think you'll see a survey. It's a 1-page survey, and it, just tell us what you need, then we'll see what we can do. Now, this grant, just as a refresher, is going to go through December of 26. So the next steps are, these are going to be paper surveys that will be right in Town Hall at the first window as you turn into Town Hall. Just turn to the right and there's a survey. Have a very colorful box. Fill it out if you want to put your name and phone number, or when we get down to the training and any equipment, it will help us keep track of who wants what. And so we can see what we can do, all right? The other thing we'll have a hyperlink also on the digital equity page that will go to this survey online. You can fill it out and you can just email it and it will come to me. And I'll keep track of everybody, okay? If the town and the board is not comfortable with that, we could substitute an address here in Town Hall, but it just makes more work for you. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Just send it to me. I can keep track of everything. These will be town documents, so nothing will get lost. Everything will come to you. So that was kind of where I was today, and I wanted to see if you are comfortable with this and you approve it, or if you have any suggestions. I'd like to run this survey until maybe the 25th of March, because then we have to put together an implementation plan that we have to submit to the state. And then after that's approved, then we can actually get going. So I'd like to try and find a time, maybe possibly this summer. Both Kathy and Dina, who are my cohorts in this, I think they're the best places to have this be prominent, have seen and reviewed everything.
Okay, well, the first question that comes to my mind is it appropriate for the information to be sent to Renee if it's the town requesting. Rhonda, do you have a thought on that? I mean, we've tried really hard not to have individual people holding town documents. So maybe that's something you want to consider and discuss.
Tell me where you want it sent.
Yeah,
So let me think about that one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we have the generic town hall email.
Sure,
I'll send that over.
you'll send it to me, that's fine, okay?
I guess a question that I have is about how to roll this out in that, talking about digital equity and talking about what we're putting online and what we're emailing to people and having for paper pickup here doesn't necessarily, to my mind, reach the people that this might be critical for. And that might be as simple as trying to get something into the next Sheffield Times.
Oh, the
or-
articles
or
are
some
already
kind of
to
promotional
Andrea.
piece that we're making sure
Yeah.
it's hitting the constituents who actually won't be able to use this last page because they don't have a computer to click forward to, although they could do it at the senior center at the library. But
So I have two
such a
Sheffield,
range, yeah.
I have two Sheffield Times articles already in, and that will be in the March, okay? This, and it's going to give, one article gives kind of a status update and thanking people for just hanging in there and doing this stuff. And the other one, I have to tweak after this meeting, okay? And that will be this survey and where it's going to be sent to. The other thing, I'll be contacting the food pantry and handing out, all right, for them to put into the food packets. I'm going to be talking also with the school district, but there hasn't been very much interest from the school district. I think most of them have Chromebooks, and so I just haven't heard too much, but I'm going to touch base with them
I'm
again.
hoping that the Sheffield Times article will help, because I think there's families that don't have the connectivity that they need, and I don't think they even realized that until they were trying to educate their children from home.
Yes.
And we're driving to the library to use a hotspot to be able to do homework with 3 kids in the car. You know,
Yes.
it's really very useful. So, and I'm wondering if that might be a question that you could ask directly of Chris Thompson at the school, because he might actually.
Can, yes.
I'm just thinking that,
Yeah.
you know, just to put it out there, like to send it to Michelle Castellano, it might not get to where the resource is, and I'll bet Chris Thompson probably has a better idea of where the needs are.
Yes, I
I'm
can
just,
do that, no
you know,
problem.
I agree with Lee, it's important that this get out, which is why we do the paper copies, because
Yeah.
the senior center, people don't often want to get on the computer.
Well, maybe what I'll do, now, I always put in the Sheffield Times that people can call me. I don't know if that's appropriate.
I don't have a problem with them calling you. It's
Okay.
the documentation thing. You know,
Okay.
we've had board issues where things are in the home of a chairman, and it really should be.
Okay,
You know, and if the messaging in that Sheffield Times piece could just be as straightforward and quick as possible, just to ensure the maximum read on it would be ideal. And honestly, I think that probably even comes down to explaining what digital equity is to people in one sense. I mean, I actually think the language of this for people that might not be attached to this, not of your survey, is off-putting, right? So like this idea that we almost want to highlight there's that you have there's a way of getting access in kind of, I
Okay.
think, the most open
so I'm
terms.
gonna ask you for something. Probably, given what you're saying, I mean, I know people read the Sheffield Times, but I'm gonna ask you to pay for a 1/4-page ad in the Sheffield Times, which I don't know the price, but the last time I did one was $20. It might be as much as $30. But I think if we did an ad, okay, and just highlighted it, so you don't have to read, you can just look, okay? Now, I don't want to be here promising people free equipment and that. I mean, there are, like everything, there are conditions. The training is going to be free. You just have to show up. But I think that's a good way, and if you wanted to do it, we could even put it in the shopper's guide, but that's going to be more money. Usually that would be about a $45 ad. So if you wanted to spend less than $100, we could put an ad in the Shopper's Guide, and we could put an ad in the Sheffield Times. And that would catch people's eye, and I would work with Rhonda on that, or any one of you on the board who wanted, to work with me on that.
I think the Sheffield Times alone is probably even enough.
I do
Because
too.
it goes to everyone in town, right?
How do you feel about it?
The Sheffield Times
Is
is
it
probably the best.
And would you
area.
be interested in helping to
Yeah,
work
yeah,
with
I'm
the ads so
happy to
that,
work with
Okay.
because I think you have a very good point, that the wording can be like, what does that mean?
Yes.
You know?
So why don't you start it?
Okay.
Okay, just take a piece of paper, the Sheffield Times, do it in a quarter, and that's the size of our ad. We can put a bold marker around it, I'll ask them to hold us that space tonight. And you start it, Lee, and then call me as soon as you're ready.
All right. I'll get
We should probably get it finished this week, because I know
Not a
that,
problem.
okay, because the Sheffield Times is gonna wanna get finished and out to print.
Thank you for all of your work on this.
I mean,
too.
any other comments? I appreciate very much,
No, I think that you do
okay? So.
yeoman's work on this.
Okay, so I'm going to send, maybe I'll send it to Lee first for wording approval. What would be on the Sheffield Town's website, and also on the Sheffield Senior Center's website, which links,
Center doesn't have a website, I don't believe.
the Senior Center?
Doesn't have a website.
She sent things out on newsletters.
Through email.
She has a.
She'll send it out. She's very active.
Yeah, it's through the email blast.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
We just don't have a website.
Oh, okay, all right. So, Lee, why don't you work on, if I may ask you to, work on that too? And let's try and talk tomorrow if we can on that.
Sounds great.
And you're okay using the link at the library, which has done a wonderful job.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful
Okay.
to have, other town departments participating in the
Okay. And
spread
then,
work around.
yes, and then Rhonda, I'll get whatever you want the email to be for the surveys to go. So people can do paper or they can do it electronically. And I'm hoping we're gonna get a lot of responses, because this is the only time we're gonna get to address this. I'm just gonna stay up here for the next item, if that's okay.
Thank you, Renee, for your update on that. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of applying for an AARP demonstration grant for an ADU, which means accessory dwelling unit design contest, and a letter of support from the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so AARP, American Association of Retired Persons, does give a fair amount of money away each year. And what they've been doing for the last year or two is what they call a demonstration grant, which is something that they hope is going to address the needs of 50-year-old and older people, and also going to be something that can be replicated across the country. So one of the things that they have been focusing on for the last couple of years is the housing issues. And they have held a contest for accessory dwelling unit design contests. And as we all know, an accessory dwelling unit is just a house by another name. It has certain square footage requirements, and Massachusetts has put those into law, and the planning board here is trying to catch up with what the state has just come out with. So this contest, it would only be a grant of somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000. That's all they give. It would require no match from the town. What it would be doing, and it's been done successfully in several other communities, large and small, across the country, is, if you get it, you do an accessory dwelling unit contest. And usually you have supporting you architects. I would envision conversations at the senior center with people as to what would you want in a smaller home? What are the conveniences that you would want? I would also see a session being done over at the library to try and get as much input, but I would try to get it in a meeting rather than in a survey. There are certain fundamentals that have to be in the design contest, and you can kind of see it there on the pages that Bob has got right now. It has to be universally accessible, all right? But there's no reason why this has to only be for 50-year-olds. 23-year-old with no children is probably similar in needs to a 50-year-old who is retired or living alone. So then you put the contest out, and people submit. I mean, I'm kind of shortening this. There's you can see the contest rules and things of that sort, okay? And they submit their designs, and their designs are supposed to be, a floor plan as well as designs for the outside. And they're all supposed to be, we would make it affordable. All right? Anybody can design $1 million ADU. What we're looking for someone is who can design one that is accommodating, energy efficient, sustainable, it's all the good things, and is livable. My goal in doing this is to kind of see if we as a town can't jumpstart our interest in ADUs. We have the bylaws, we have the state, we have the CPA, but we don't have anything to go forward with. And to go and ask someone to design an ADU could cost them $25,000, $30,000. It would be my hope that we would get some really good designs and that we could put into the contest that the winning design or designs, we may wish to do categories, like 400 to 500 square feet, 800 square feet, would be flexible, and also the design would become the property of the town. The reason for that is the town may wish, looking a step or two ahead, to use the CPA money to pay that person, would have to be an architect or such, to do floor plans and complete build out of that unit. So it could be pre-approved by our building inspector and the planning board. So anyone who wanted to build that could come to town hall and get a copy of those plans and not have to go through the expense of getting an engineer and getting all of that done. And then people could start building private ADUs. This is probably not an ADU that would be in a home or would be attached. It would probably be a standalone unit. I see that as probably the easiest to go forward with. But that standalone unit could also be the building plan for a house. Because it wasn't until too much long ago, like 20 years ago, 40 years ago, most houses were 800 square feet or less. This idea that you need to have 2,500 square feet to roam around on with no kids, that's a recent invention. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I took this to the high school, to the Transcend program, and they noodled on it for a couple of weeks, but they just felt, I think, that because this grant would be awarded in May, it's due March 6th, so it's a real close time frame. It would be awarded in May. It couldn't be started until June 25th, though some conversations could be held, and it has to be finished by December 15th. It's not one that goes on and on and on and on. It's short, it's sweet. I'd like to see if we can use this as a way to get people excited.
Well, I got a gazillion questions running around in my head. The first of which is, who's the judges? Who judges this?
Oh, I would have a panel.
Oh, I'm sure you have a plan for that.
Yes, you do. You do know me well, Nadine. I would have a panel which could, my first goal is to submit the grant. Okay, I've done some thinking on this, but I would expect that we would want to, I would like to involve the planning board, the housing commission, and obviously the select board, okay? I think it would be wise to have one or more of the many architects we have in town who can look at this. I would like to have a couple of seniors who could look at this, and I would like to have a couple of young people, okay? Because they may be building the house that's small for themselves right now. So that's who I'd like to have the judges. We get to write the rules. Okay? And that's part 2. Gentlemen?
I read through those materials and I felt like I was missing a little bit of information. So I have a couple of
I can leave you with this.
Yeah, I know that. So the $25,000 would be towards overseeing the program, or would it be an award for the winning
Well,
components?
So
Or do they?
it's
I
20 to
didn't see any
25. They usually award 20 on this. The max of a grant is 25.
Okay.
Okay. If it's approved, I'm going to write the best grant I can.
Yeah,
Generally what they do, and I think you saw this in some of the handouts I provided, generally they provide a cash award for first, second, and third place. We don't have to do that. We can do two first prize awards for an 800 square foot and a 400 to 500. We get to write the rules. Okay, I'm going to try and be putting some of that into this grant, but it can all be changed, all right, because we need to talk to the community about this. So people, I think, will be very excited about this.
Oh, I think it's all very exciting. I just think that we're really rushing something that we haven't fully formulated how we plan to use it when we get the money.
If we get the money,
I really am not crazy about getting the money and then figuring out how to spend it. So it's
Well,
just
you can
my,
only spend 15% of it on a consultant. That I have already found out. So there would probably be money advertising. There would be money like you have right there. What are the rules? Okay. And if we can't find people to work on this, we have sent grant money back before. We did it when, well, we just applied again for the VADAR system, but we got that money, what was it, Rhonda, 3 years ago? And they weren't ready to do it, and we sent it back. Okay, there's nothing wrong with sending money back, but you got to get it first. All right.
And there's no strings attached, no match to this.
There's no match. I sent Jill today a page of the terms and conditions. The only thing that caught my eye on that is a liability insurance requirement for $1 million in workers' comp for those that are intellectually involved in this. I mean, we're not running around looking at land. This is land free. This is paper driven. And that's not, you all have workers' comp anyway. So the rest of it, seemed to me like we have the right to have our name on everything.
So when is it due, Renee?
March 6th. Part of the problem is we missed a select board meeting. Okay, I would have been here earlier. And I was also discussing it with the students. So you're right, and I apologize for that. I am here late.
Yeah. As far as ADUs, I am all for it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's helpful and will be helpful to the town. The contract language is above my comprehension. I would want to run that past legal.
You could run it past legal. It's pretty straightforward.
Whether or how much interest you get from the professionals that would, I assume, would be developing these plans, I don't know. But as long as there's no strings attached, I don't have a problem.
Well, I've given the terms and conditions, okay? When I looked them over, the one that caught my eye was the liability insurance, but this could easily go to council. Now,
and their preference for things being considered acceptable to be billed, right? As
I'm sorry,
I thought that there was a statement in their thing is that the winning designs should then be viewed as being buildable in that town.
I would like to have it, again, you know me, I've got a longer range goal than just right here. I would like to have any winning design become the property of the town. And then using CPA money, which has to be approved by the voters, to have whoever that is, and I would expect it would be an architect or an engineering firm, design that down to a buildable document that would be approved by our building inspector. And as long as it meets the planning board's setback designs, anyone could come in here, pick up a copy of those plans, and go build.
Including in the historic district of Ashley Falls?
It's
is it
Sheffield.
allowed?
That's, I mean, this is a question that the ADUs have not answered yet. What supersedes what?
Well, you would have to receive permission from the Ashley Falls Historic District. That does not change that, and that's house by house, so I wouldn't even want to get into that. Now, I'm going to give you a way out, which I hate to do, okay? I'm going against everything I believe, but I'm sensing a no here. So I want to give
I
my,
don't think this is a flat out no. I think all three of us support ADUs in town.
Okay.
All three of us do. And all three of us, I think this is an interesting concept. I have some concerns about it becoming the property of the town, what the legal implications of that are. I mean, for me, there's a whole lot of gray areas that I don't think we can get all the answers to in time for a submission on March 6th. But I could be wrong, I mean,
well, I think I'm tracking with you, Nadine, because, I've spent a month on this so far, and I again apologize that I wasn't here before the last meeting wasn't here. One thing that we could do is, there's nothing magical about this grant. It's going to come around again. But I think since there is enthusiasm for ADUs, and we do need to get going, I think we may want to consider putting, and I hate committees, but putting a group together to start hashing some of this out, and then consider either applying next year or using some of our CPA money, which we could vote on this May, that we get in November, to do this on our own.
well, first of all, we don't have any CPA money yet.
No, we'll get it next November.
Yeah.
Okay, for this fiscal year.
So I love this idea. I just think that we're trying to move it way too fast. And I really think that having a year before we have to apply for it again gives us time to really develop this fully, so that we really have some people on board, maybe dig up the architect that would be interested in sort of helping to
As I think
navigate some
I
of
love
this.
this idea as well. I do have a few questions on what the rollout would be, and I'm a little nervous about timing. Additionally, and is this something that we do as a town, or is this something we do with BRPC and we do as a region?
Well,
Right? 'Cause I feel like you want to get people as engaged in this as possible, and having architects do something that they're seeing as a design competition in Sheffield versus the Greater Berkshires, would that be a better or a worse thing?
You can
Would we
only
even be
spend-
allowed to apply for this then?
this is not a grant that looks at multi-town
Okay,
involvement.
it didn't look like it did.
Okay, well, it goes on and on and on and on. But it's not like the community compact where they look for multi-town. In my view, once you bring another town into it, you've got a whole nother set of players who may have different ideas and different interests. I'm not interested in that chaos. 15% of the grant, which if it was $20,000 would be $3,000, could be used on a consultant. That is the maximum.
Yeah.
I think we can get Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to do this probably under our technical assistance, where we get 9 hours for free. So I don't see any reason paying for it. Okay. So and every town has different architecture, has different lot sizes, has different zoning. I just do not want myself to be into that nightmare.
So are either one of you interested in making a motion to move this forward for March 6th?
I am not at this point. I've only had a short.
It's okay, Bob. It's okay.
I've only had a short.
Why don't I just take it off the table, and I'm going to ask
Let's
you.
just develop it more fully and,
Well, what I'm going to ask you to do is think about this, and while it's still fresh in your mind, write down your questions that came the most, because that will help me.
Sure.
Okay, and I have contact with them. I can talk with them at any time.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay? Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Board member items.
None.
No, I'm set.
I don't have any either. Rhonda?
I just have one. We had a resignation from Ellen involved as the administrative assistant. So I'm asking you to accept that resignation and send her a letter of thanks for their service.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comments? Yes.
Actually, there were two things. I was so
Please identify
entranced.
yourself. We all know you as the citizens of the world.
261 East.
I'm buying you a T-shirt with your address in it. And just save us all
A
some time.
necklace. I am
Right,
Pat Levine
right.
and I live at.
But which hat am I wearing? I was so entranced by your presentation and so enthusiastic about it. I lost track of one of the things I was going to comment on. But first, the first thing I want to remind the public that there is I think, going to be a very interesting community meeting on Friday, February 21st. That is this Friday at 1 o'clock regarding the EMS crisis in the Berkshires. I am supporting this in terms of supporting the Friends of the Bushnell Sage Library, who has organized this. It will be at Dewey Hall on Friday. State Representative Lee Davis, Sheffield Police Chief Eric Munson, and two other individuals will be looking at the situation and looking for comments, input, and suggestions on solutions. That's one thing. The other thing, I wish I could remember. Public health. We've had some concerns about dead waterfowl, and if anyone does witness dead birds, to please let the public health office know. Town Hall, extension 157, I think it is. And we can do an investigation as to whether or not this is the beginning of bird flu in our area. We know that it is around the state, and so I'd like to keep track of it and work in collaboration with the animal control and animal inspection individual. We do have the funding finally in-house for the owl system, and I'm working on the accoutrements that go with that. And it's not easy because they don't want to just sell one small thing. They want to sell a whole elaborate system. So I'm having to be very persistent on that. But I'm stalling, but that's still not what I wanted to comment on. Forget it. Whatever it was, it'll wait.
It'll come back. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks for coming.